The new polling suggests that Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are deadlocked in literally every single battleground state, meaning this race continues to be an extremely tight one. Now, the Cook Political Report, which does surveys with their swing state project, shows that Harris polls between 1 and 3 points ahead in 5 of these swing states, which is easily in the margin of error. And in a 6th state, North Carolina, Harris and Trump were exactly tied. Now, Harris leads Trump in Michigan by 3 percentage points, and she also leads by 1 or 2 points in Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where she's actually holding a rally with the Cheneys today. Trump is leading by 2 percentage points head-to-head in Georgia. But she is, well, let's check it and see if she's doing any better than Biden. According to this particular poll in the May survey that they had done, when President Joe Biden was still in the race, Trump led in 6 states and tied in Wisconsin. And so Kamala Harris is, in fact, according to this poll, performing better than Biden was. And so that's good news, but it's not good news when you consider how tight this race is. And every strategy that we've seen from Democrats to hurt Trump and help get Kamala Harris elected doesn't really seem to be working. Cenk did a live video yesterday on the special counsel's indictment into Donald Trump. They unsealed that indictment, and now we have additional details about what Trump is accused of doing in order to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. I don't know if that's even gonna make a dent at this point, but it just seems like nothing's working. And I think Democrats need to look inward and figure out what is it about our party that makes voters not trust us, not wanna vote for us, and consider someone like Donald Trump instead.
Yeah, so great point. I mean, look, I'm both mystified by this and totally get it at the same time. But we at least know the base of knowledge, and you know the base of knowledge as to why these phenomena are happening. People in mainstream media have no idea, and they're constantly like, I don't understand. And it's because the American people don't like the establishment. They don't like the powerful. They feel like they're being oppressed by big business, big government, etc. That's not a hard concept to understand, because it's in every single poll. But they read those polls and can't see them. They're blinded by their own bias because they're in the establishment. It's like the Israelis can't see that they're the ones that just killed 41,000 people in Gaza, that they are the much more powerful force, and they have a right to exist. They are existing, and the Palestinians have no right to exist because of Israel. But they can't see any of that, even though it's obvious to the rest of the world, because they're blinded by their bias. Democrats couldn't see that Joe Biden was too old. That's amazing, right? They just can't see reality. Now, the part that I'm mystified by is, I mean, there's a billion things about Trump that's wrong, right? Well, we do TrumpBrackets.com, where we had hundreds of submissions, 64 gigantic ones, etc. But there's 2 things that stand out so much. After he lost the election, not only did he do a fake elector scheme to organize a coup against America, but he said it. He said we should terminate the Constitution. All rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution should be terminated so that Trump could be president. Okay, and then the second thing is, now this new motion shows a second source saying, hey, Mr. President, they're trying to kill your vice president. Mike Pence's life is in danger because your fans are trying to kill him. And he said, quote, so what? And he told Mark Meadows, I think he deserves it. So,
it is incredible, because you would think that news like that and details like that would change the minds of a lot of voters who currently support Donald Trump. But you also have to think about what is impacting Americans day to day, right? So when you think about protecting democracy, I think for a lot of people, they might think, well, the media is being hyperbolic about this. Remember, there's a lack of trust toward the media. So the source where the information is coming from might not be a source that they trust. But also think about what Americans are affected by day to day. And that's what their priorities are gonna be when it comes to choosing the politician that they want to represent them and their interests. And look, I made this point yesterday, but I'm gonna make it again because I was listening to some news about Donald Trump's speeches and recent rallies. And look, one thing that's clear about Trump is he's simplistic in what he says and he's repetitive. And so what he keeps repeating in every single rally, no tax on tips, no tax on tips, no tax on tips. In an economy, which is essentially a service economy, where the majority of workers work in the service industry, that is a big deal. And when you look at Kamala Harris, she has put out some statements about what her agenda would be, what kind of policies she would pursue, but it's not as simplistic, it's a lot more nebulous, if that makes any sense. And it's hard for people to take it and kind of think about how it would be applied to their personal life and how it would improve their personal life. You get what I'm saying?
Of course, look, there's 100 ways to be a populist that are so easy. I mean, when you talk about housing, her plans on housing aren't bad, but if she went on the stump and said, this is exactly how private equity buys up your houses and then turns you into renters and steals the value of your homes from you, she would be the most popular politician in America by a landslide, right? But private equity funds her campaign, they fund Trump's campaign, so they've neutralized both candidates and that are not telling you the real story. And look, I don't want you to get the wrong impression. Donald Trump, obviously a fake populist. Is he gonna get rid of taxes on tips? There's no chance he's gonna do that. Instead, he's gonna cut the corporate tax rate one more time from 21% down to 15%. So, but at least he's faking it, whereas the other side, they did it for like a minute. Tim Walz, populist agenda, and then the Biden team took back over, no interviews. They started renouncing some of their populist policies and they went back into corporate mode. So that's why they can't beat someone who's an obvious monster and that they should be landsliding. Guys, last thing on how Trump's so easy to beat. Like imagine if the same exact scenario as Trump with the same exact sourcing, right? But it's about Barack Obama and how he thought his fans should murder Joe Biden. What do you think would have happened? That would be the largest story of our lifetimes. Everybody knows that, right? Imagine if Biden's chief of staff goes to him and says, sir, your fans, they think you're young and dynamic. They're really upset that Kamala Harris might replace you. They're trying to murder her. They're chanting, hang Kamala Harris, hang Kamala Harris. And Biden said she deserves it. The largest story of all of our lifetimes, times 10, and everybody knows it. Same exact thing with Donald Trump, barely a blip. And by the way, the Democrats barely mention it.
I know. Wait, hold on, mention what?
That he didn't mind his vice president being murdered. Like that's not a thing they talk about often at all. They mention January 6th. They say threat to democracy.
They talk about he's a threat to democracy. But
why
okay,
not?
Fair. But I don't know how much that's going to move the needle, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, no, but that's the insanity of it, guys. That's the insanity. Look, I get it. MAGA doesn't believe anything.
I'm not talking about MAGA.
And in fact, I told you this before. In social media, I put out this story that's indisputable, and you know what? They didn't dispute it. Half of them were like, "Yeah, we don't mind. We don't mind if Mike Pence was murdered, because then Donald Trump would be president." Okay, there's nothing you could do about MAGA, but there's tons of independents who would not vote for anyone who wanted their vice president murdered, okay? Because that's beyond insane. And then the termination, he said, I want to terminate the Constitution. What's complicated about that? If Obama or Biden had said, I want to terminate Tim Walz misspoke by an inch, and instead of saying that I'm friends with the families of the victims of the shooters, he left out victims, and they're like, he's friends with the shooters. They go ballistic over the most obvious misspeaking of all time, right? Imagine if Tim Walz or Kamala Harris said we should terminate the Constitution. The right wing and the mainstream media would all say, no, the race is over. The race is over, Donald Trump is president. But Trump says it, and everybody's like, that's totally fine. It's not fine. It's not fine.
I agree with you that it's not fine. And as I've said repeatedly on this show, Donald Trump should be held accountable. And I hope that the special counsel's case against him moves forward some way or another, because what he did was wrong. I do value our democracy. However, it is also a problem, guys, when our government makes a mockery of our democracy. And what I mean by that is we have now gone on for several decades where the needs of the electorate are not met. And when you have a democratic process that's supposed to elect individuals who serve you and your best interests, who seek to take care of the American people, and they fail to do so again and again and again, people increasingly stop caring about our precious democracy. I think that is a wrong way to approach it. I think that we need reforms in our system of government that ensures that our elected lawmakers actually serve our best interests rather than take bribes and serve the best interests of the corporate elite and foreign leaders. But I'm just thinking about what is being communicated to the electorate overall and what has been communicated to the electorate overall, not just for a few years, not just over the years that Donald Trump has been on the political scene, but for literally decades. Literally decades.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.